Our counterintelligence program must prevent the rise of a black messiah. That's what the...
Now, the truth is they know they stripped the language from the people. And studying the language and the culture will tell you everything you need to know. So when you're reading the Old Testament, there is no mention of Jesus at all. But you got to know Hebrew and the culture to understand that. Yeah? Because the Messiah spoken of in the Old Testament is the Creator. Not another man God, but the Creator. Now, I know a lot of people will be offended by this, but there's a reason why they took the language from you. Because they know they could feed you any narrative and all the descendants would forget about the culture and the language. So if you're upset, I want you to do this very thing. I want you to go to Deuteronomy 13 and I want you to read that. I want you to read it like a couple of times because I know you're going to read it the first time. You're going to be like, no, this is wrong. No, there should have never, and I do mean never, been a New Testament. This is why people who actually have critical thinking skills read the New Testament and Old Testament and say they contradict each other. They do. But the most important piece is this. For the indigenous folks, y'all, do you know how many times they repurposed the New Testament in order to convert you? So many times. Go read about the Penarde Indians. And that happened in the 70s. Yeah. Did you also know for 90 years they looked for Israel in Africa, in Europe, and they couldn't fucking find it? Did you also know that Christopher Columbus wrote a book of prophecies concerning Israel, and the way he talked about it as if he or nobody else has ever seen it? Yeah, that's what he did. Because that's what the fuck he was looking for. I'm going to say it one more time. That's what the fuck he was looking for. Yeah, he came to America looking for that. See, the thing you don't comprehend is when you are reading the Old Testament in the language that all of the places where we talk about Kodesh foods, meaning your kosher foods, which is not an original Hebrew term. No, it's not. It's not. Those animals are not describing animals. They're describing what the animals do. What? What the fuck you talking about? You don't want to hear me now because you heard me say that, huh? No, it's describing what it does. It's a verb or an adjective and not a noun or a proper noun. Not at all. Do you know what else? When it's describing lands and places, same thing. So when it was talking about a noun, it wasn't a proper noun, meaning an actual place. It was describing what the river does. So when you start looking at those Old Testament Hebrew concepts from the Paleo Hebrew, because that's the language they could never taint. See, Paleo Hebrew takes every letter, which is a pictogram, and it tells you what that word means to a whole different level, like shalom, right? Destroy the authority attached to chaos. So when you're asking God for peace, you're destroying anything that brings chaos in your life. That's what that Hebrew language is like. And there is no other language on earth like it. So when you're looking, you know what land fits it the most? Psalms 83. The name of Israel will be no more in remembrance. The Bible describes Israel as a land between two waters with multiple river systems. The Levant doesn't have that. But you know what river that mirrors the Nile? The Mississippi River. In the Bible, Pharaoh was known as the king of rivers. In the indigenous name, the Mississippi is also known as the father of rivers. Yeah. So, while you round here thinking it's a man finna come out the goddamn sky, no, they're talking about the creator. They got you worshiping other gods. Remember? That's another commandment. Thou shalt not worship any other gods. Did you also know in the Old Testament, God said, there is no God before me, neither is there any after me. So how could he be sitting at the right hand of him? There is none beside me. Yeah, they was leaving the breadcrumbs for you, but you wasn't paying attention. None beside me, meaning he not sitting at the right hand of the creator. Beside, next to. Old Testament. See how you don't pay attention? There's none. There is none equal to him. That's when you say, ooh, Satan is doing it all. None equal to. From a Hebrew concept, there is nothing greater than him. The indigenous called him Hawa or Haya. Yeah, you go look those names up in Hebrew. See what you get. They literally took a people who worshiped only the creator and gave them a man god. And the breadcrumbs is all through the Old Testament and we ain't see shit. Now think about that. Then they turned around and told you came from a whole nother land. How do you have a land full of black people? And then tell them, oh, it was a land full of black people, but we brought other black people here to be slaves. Dom diversa. Any nation of people who were not Christians, we get to take your land and make you slaves. How do we forget this? How do we not know this? How hard is it to gather the concept? Why would you bring a whole nother group of black people to a land full of black people to make them slaves when you already said you was going to make the people who weren't Christian slaves and take their land and then turn around and tell their descendants they came from another land? Do you know what that means? You African, so you will never claim your land. How difficult is that? That's wild. But the most important piece is this. You wonder why there's so much racism happening today? Because in the Old Testament, why y'all looking at Revelations, which is an invalid book when you look at Deuteronomy 13, there's an uprising. Do you know the only people in the history of the world knew another people was coming to their land and one day that those people would get their fucking land back? The indigenous Americans. Do you know of people that knew they were going to go into captivity for one last time and an invaded people would come into their land to take it and one day they themselves will get their land back? Israel. The people spoke Chaldean, the ancient language of Hebrew, because the one they know today ain't even, it's mixed. Wake up. It's time to wake the fuck up because we need to figure out some shit. Message.